Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 17th, 2023 board meeting. My name is Sung-ho, president of the board. Before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 11133. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we're accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allow 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
This is the moderator. When members of the public request public comment, the moderator, will turn on the WebEx question and answer feature to facilitate public comment. Comments should be limited to the topic addressed on that specific agenda item. We will display instructions on the screen each time, and audience members may click on the question mark, typically at the lower right-hand corner of their WebEx screen, and click the word comment next to the text box, and then click send to have your request be recognized. You may also choose to raise your hand by clicking the hand icon at the bottom row of your computer's WebEx screen, or if you are an audio-only participant, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. Each commenter will then be invited to unmute themselves in turn, and they will be given 3 minutes to speak with a 10-second warning. At the end, their microphone will then be muted, and we will move on to the next person who has requested public comment. I believe that is all the instructions that I have.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. Maria Thurpa?
Good morning, licensee member present.
Good morning, Maria. Jig Patel?
Good morning, licensee member present.
Good morning, Jig. Renee Barker?
Licensee member present.
Good morning, Renee. Indira Cameron Banks? Indira may not be joining today. Trevor Chandler?
Public member present.
Good morning, Trevor. Jesse Crowley? I believe Jesse is not able to join today. Jose De La Paz? I thought Jose was joining, so if staff can just check in with Jose when you have a minute. KK Ja?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, KK. Ricardo Sanchez? Is Ricardo here?
Yeah, I am. Ricardo
hi,
Sanchez,
Ricardo.
public member.
Oh, yay. Oh, one last meeting. Yay, awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yes.
Ricardo. Thanks for coming. Nicole Tebow?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason Wise?
Good morning, Jason Weiss, public member.
Good morning, Jason. I'm here. The quorum has been established. We'll get right on it to agenda item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda item for future meetings. Quorum has been established. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the board today. We encourage participation by members of the public throughout our meetings at appropriate times. The board respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they're done so in a professional manner consistent with how the board conducts its business. I'll now ask the moderator to open the line for individuals to provide public comment for items not on the agenda. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. As we open the lines, I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion. Rather, it's an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. Moderator?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function, and audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Moving on to the next agenda, item 3, recognition and celebration of pharmacists licensed in California for 40 years or more. As you may recall, several years ago, the board changed its recognition program for pharmacists and currently recognizes pharmacists that have been licensed for 40 or more years. Recognition of pharmacists reaching this milestone is posted on our website, and pharmacists are provided with a certificate. Prior to transitioning to remote meetings, the board routinely provided an opportunity for pharmacists licensed for 40 years or more to attend the board meeting and be recognized by the board. Although we have returned to remote meetings, I'd like to provide an opportunity for the board to recognize pharmacists that have been licensed in California for 40 years. Moderator, I'd like to ask that you open up the Q&A feature to allow pharmacists attending today, if anyone would like to be recognized by the board for 40 years of service as a California licensed pharmacist.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Well, congratulations to everyone who has been licensed as a pharmacist for over 40 years, or any pharmacist who's been practicing. Thank you, and for your contribution to public health. Really appreciate it. Next, agenda item 4, discussion, consideration, and possible action related to proposed regulations to amend Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1715.1, and automated drug delivery system self-assessment form, including comments received during the second 15-day comment period. Members, the history of this regulation proposal is included in the meeting materials, so I will not review in its entirety, but would like to remind members that as part of the February 2023 meeting, in response to comments received during the 45-day comment period, the board voted to make additional changes to the proposed regulation and release the matter for an additional 15-day comment period. During the April board meeting, again in response to public comments, the board initiated the second 15-day comment period. The board again received comments during the second 15-day comment period. During our discussion today, we can consider the comments received to determine what action is appropriate. I trust you had an opportunity to review the materials. I have reviewed the materials, including the new comments received and staff's recommendation. I agree with the recommendations offered by staff and welcome your thoughts. I would also entertain a motion if you believe such action is appropriate. The meeting materials include a possible motion if you believe staff recommendation is appropriate. And we also have Noreen Marks, who's a reg attorney for our DCA, here to assist if we have any other questions. Members, and feel free to raise your hand. Maria?
I'd like to thank the board and members of the public and staff for the long process of getting these ADDS self-assessment finalized. This was a lot of changes over several years. And so I'd like to go ahead and make the motion as written. And for Noreen, I will read it for you. Accept the board staff recommended comment responses and adopt the regulation text as noticed on April 21st, 2023. Additionally, delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by control agencies to complete the rulemaking file. That is my motion.
Thank you, Maria. So we're adopting twice, I guess, so it makes us adopting very firmly. All right, so with that, Noreen, is that okay since there's a type of saying adopt twice?
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay,
there's no
thank
problem
you.
there.
Thank you, Noreen. All right, anyone willing to motion second Maria's motion?
This is
I-
Jake. I'll second.
I'll second that.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. I think Jake beat you to it this time, Renee, so I'll take Jake's second. And with that,
I'm
again,
sorry, President O. I missed whether or not you took public comment. I'm really sorry. I missed whether that was done.
oh, I'm gonna get there. We're gonna
Oh,
get
okay.
there.
Okay.
Yep. Just getting to the second. All right, with motion and second, and we're ready for public comment unless members have any other comments. Seeing
All right.
none, we are ready for public comment, Sarah.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it doesn't look like we have any requests for comment, but it does look like Board Member De La Paz has joined us.
Perfect. We have
And
a full house today.
Board Member De La Paz, can I get a quick mic check from you?
Microphone check.
Thank you.
Morning,
Oh.
Jose.
Good morning.
It appears there are no requests for comment on this item. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. With the motion and second and public comment, we'll take a roll call vote. Maria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Jake, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Jose, how do you vote?
I missed this item because I downloaded late, so I'll abstain.
Thank you, sir. Kiki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Jason, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to next agenda item 5. Discussion and consideration of draft legislative report regarding assessment of standard of care enforcement model in the practice of pharmacy. Just want to start by saying thank you to the standard of committee members. This has been a long and very hard work coming, so I really appreciate it. Since March of 2022, the Standard of Care Ad Hoc Committee has received presentations, learned about actions taken in other jurisdictions, reviewed research, surveyed pharmacists, and considered policy questions. As was stated during the committee meeting earlier this month, there has been tremendous engagement by both members of the committee and stakeholders over the past year. Again, thank you to everyone that has participated in this process. It has been an enlightening and an awesome opportunity to learn so much. Today, the board will have an opportunity to review the updated draft of the legislative report that incorporates the changes requested by the committee. Although the report is not due to the legislature until July 1 of 2023, I included a report on this agenda to ensure members had sufficient time to consider the report and, if necessary, request additional changes to be made. Should that occur, we can bring the updated report to the June board meeting for final approval. Before we begin, I'd like to highlight that the meeting materials include some background. There are 3 attachments, including the draft report, written comments received for the draft meeting, and written comments received and considered by the committee members as part of the May 3rd Standard of Care Ad Hoc Committee. Thank you again to Vice Chairperson Serpa for chairing the May 3rd committee meeting in my absence. During that meeting, members of the committee and stakeholders were again provided with significant opportunity to provide comments on the draft report. As I have shared during our prior discussions on the draft report, I realize that for some, this report may seem go too far, and for others, not far enough. Members, I have reviewed the draft report and believe it accurately reflects all, if not most, of the information learned through the process and the recommendations and next steps identified. Before I open up to all members, I'd like to ask if any of the members of the Standard of Care Ad Hoc Committee members have any additional comments on the draft report. I think we have Maria, Nicole, Renee here on the call. Okay, seeing none. Members, I'll open the discussion to the full board. Again, emphasize that I understand this topic may sound simple at first, but has been an extremely complex and has many layers to it. I also want to ensure all members feel as comfortable as they can with this report. Will not achieve report that everyone 100% agrees, but want to make sure you have adequate time to thoroughly read and review this report. We do not also have to approve this report today. We can also consider a motion to approve it if everyone feels comfortable. We could also open up for public comment first if you feel that is more appropriate as well. So I will leave it up to member comments. Members, any comments? No comments. Anyone wants to make a motion in that case? to approve this as final draft, as the final version? Are we there yet?
Hi, Sung. This is
Nicole.
Nicole. I'll make the motion to approve this as the final version.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. Anyone would like to second Nicole's motion?
This is Renee. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Renee. Awesome. With a motion and second, and we are ready for public comment, but just want to make sure, well, we'll bring it back to members for comments after public comment. I would imagine we'll have some public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And it looks like we do have a request from John Grubbs. And John, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
I'm John Grubbs. I'm the Chief Pharmacy Officer for University of California Health. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the pharmacy departments at the 5 University of California medical centers. And I'd like to say that we fully endorse the draft report. We appreciate the inclusive approach that the Board of Pharmacy has taken to develop this report and the leadership of President O and all the hard work of the members of the ad hoc committee. And we look forward to working with the board to move the recommendations of this report into practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Grubbs.
All right, this is the moderator. Looks like we have some more individuals, so I'm going to go in the order that they're received. So next we have a call-in user 4. You're going to be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. You'll get a prompt on your phone to unmute yourself. It should be *6. All right, and you are unmuted. For our audio only user, unfortunately it doesn't, I see that your microphone's unmuted, but I'm not hearing any audio. You able to get closer to your microphone?
Is this better?
Oh, much better. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. This is Mark Johnson with CVS Health. Quoting from the draft report, the board recommends, based on the information received and considered, that California patients will benefit from pharmacists gaining additional independent authority to provide patient care services. Yet the board voted not to support SB 524, which would allow pharmacists to furnish COVID, influenza, strep, and conjunctivitis treatment without a prescription of a traditional prescriber. This inconsistency in board position in these 2 documents submitted to the legislature is likely to question the board's mission statement. The Board of Pharmacy protects and promotes the health and safety of Californians. Public members of the board, you are appointed for your ability to help boards maintain a public focus, especially when pharmacists regulating pharmacists make decisions that favor pharmacists. I urge you to correct the glaring inconsistency in these 2 documents and take a vote today to support SB 524. Not supporting a bill that increases access to these medications, especially in rural California, because of a perception that employers will force employees to participate in such furnishing, eliminates the benefit to public safety that SB 524 would provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the comments, Mark.
All right, we'll be moving on to our next individual, Susan Bonilla. And Susan, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
The California Pharmacist Association. Just want to draw your attention and for those also from the public to a joint letter that we submitted with many signatories in support of the board's action today. There's one part of the letter that I thought really merits some attention, and that's towards the second to last paragraph, where it says an item that's been raised on several occasions by committee members and others is whether pharmacists in certain settings would have the time, resources, and facilities to provide services under a standard of care model. The onus must be on the pharmacist licensee in the facility or pharmacy licensee. Pharmacists must not provide any services for which they are unqualified or inadequately resourced. Furthermore, health plans and health systems administer rigorous credentialing and privileging procedures to ensure that only qualified professionals provide services to their members and beneficiaries. Just thought that was very important to point out that moving to standard of care is really allowing not only a better practice at the top of licensing, but it does have many safeguards built in that were listed in the portion of the letter that I read. Thank you very much for your hard work, and we look forward to continuing to work with you as legislation is contemplated in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the comment, Susan.
All right, this is the moderator. Next individual has requested public comment. Keith Yoshizuka. And Keith, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
California Society of Health System Pharmacists. I want to express on behalf of the society our profound thanks and appreciation for the board's position in moving the profession towards a standard of care model through the legislature. We have been able to provide input, and I think the document and the intent well reflects what we had, everything that we had hoped for. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the comments, Dr. Yoshizuka.
All right, this is the moderator. Our next individual has requested public comment is Daniel Robinson. And Daniel, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears in your device. All right, and you are unmuted. Daniel Robinson, if you are currently speaking, we can't hear you. It looks like your microphone is unmuted. If it's possible that you can get closer to your microphone. Daniel, it doesn't appear that we can hear you. I have 2 options for you. You can either reconnect your audio through your phone. Let me put up some instructions on the screen for that real quick. Or if you'd like, you can type your comment into the question and answer box and I can read it out loud for you.
Well, let's try to make sure he has opportunity to speak, Sarah. I want to make sure he is given. So please help him troubleshoot however you can.
I put instructions up on the screen on how to switch the audio.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, there you are.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank members of the board and the subcommittee for the hard work over the last year plus in working on standard of care. The letter that was submitted through CPHA, I think, reflects the opinions of many of us who have been advocating for this change. We took on, with changes in the law in January of 2014, where pharmacists were recognized as healthcare providers, there were just a lot of things that exist and currently exist in pharmacy statutes that really don't give us full authority as providers. Providers need to be able to work independently with their patients and other healthcare providers to make decisions based on the very best possible evidence that's available at the time. And when sort of prescriptive care plans are written within the law, it really has been a great barrier to providing the best care possible. So very excited about the changes and the consideration that's being given to this by the board. And I think that this will be a great benefit to the patients of California and to healthcare providers in general. So thank you very much for all of your work, and we continue to look forward to opportunities to work with you through the licensing committee, because there still are many, many changes in the Business Professions Code for Pharmacy that will need to be updated to reflect a standard of care enforcement model. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you for all the comments again. And with that, I am feeling pretty confident that we will be okay to go proceed, but let's make sure our members have any no other thoughts or comments before I go for the votes. There's a lot of hard work and time and dedication by staff, all the stakeholders, all of our members for the last about a year and a half. So thank you again. And with that, I'm going to call for the vote. Marie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria. Jig, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Jig. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Jesse's not here. Jose, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. KK, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo, how do you vote? Don't hear Ricardo. Ricardo, if you're back, please just let us know. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Jason, how do you vote?
I will abstain, Sal.
Oh, forgot about that. Thank you, Jason. And I vote yes. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. It is 9:30, so it's only. Oh,
Sorry, son. I voted yes too.
thank you,
had some
Ricardo.
problems with this.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you so much. With that, it's only 9:30, so I think we can go on to next agenda item without a break. So probably, hopefully, after the first petition, we can take a break. Agenda item 6, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modification of penalty. Actually, maybe it is good that we do take a quick break to make sure everyone is set up, but I'll check. I'll see. We'll see how that goes. As included on the agenda, we'll be considering several petitions today. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our administrative law judge, Danette Brown, I believe, is here today. There has been a last-minute change. So, hi, Judge, Your Honor.
Good morning to
You're
you, President O.
Hi, Judge Brown. Thank you for joining us. And the floor is yours. And
Okay.
hopefully all the petitioners are ready to go.
Okay, very good. Were you gonna call a recess first, or we're just gonna go ahead and?
If our first petitioner, Raymond Verling, is ready to go, I think we can proceed. Looks like our moderator's getting everything set up. So it looks like ready to go. So if not, we'll take a break.
All right, just let me know when we're ready to go underway here.
All right, and this is the moderator, Vern Verleen. If I could get a quick mic check from you, just to make sure your microphone is working properly.
And video.
Oh, looks like we lost audio. One moment. Perhaps we should
all right, we'll
break
take
for
a break.
moment. Yeah, while we troubleshoot.
We'll take a 5-minute break. So 9:35, everyone. We'll come back at 9:35. There you are. All right. Are you ready to go? I mean, if this is not okay, we could move to the next petitioner and have you do it after.
No, I can do this.
All right.
This is not what I expected, but
All right.
all right.
Okay. All right, Your Honor. We will take it back to you. And do you want me to take a roll call of our members and give it back to you, or?
Sure thing. Yes, we need a quorum of the board present on the record. So yeah, that would be great.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Maria.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria. Jake.
Present.
Thank you, Renee.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, and Trevor.
Here.
Thank you, Jesse is not here. Jose.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jose. KK.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, KK, and Ricardo.
Yeah, public member.
Hi,
present.
Ricardo. Nicole.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole, and Jason.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jason. All right, Your Honor, back to you.
Thank you so much, President O. Good morning, members of the board, and to our Deputy Attorney General who will be presenting the petitions on behalf of the people, and I believe that's Ms. Jarvis. We are here this morning to review 5 petitions. My name is Danette Brown, and I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings assigned to preside over these matters. A quorum of the board is present, and we are going to hear the petition for early termination of probation of Victoria Ledesma. This is OAH number 2023-050-447. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jarvis. I appreciate that. All right, just checking, Ms. Ledesma, you are there, is that correct?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, Ms. Ledesma, I'm just gonna ask if you are choosing to represent yourself here this morning.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let me just walk you through very quickly the procedures in this petition matter. The board is concerned with, in this hearing, about your rehabilitation since your license was placed on probation. The Deputy Attorney General will first proceed to provide an orientation of this matter, basically kind of a background history of how we arrived here today. After that, you will have the right to make a presentation under oath on your own behalf to explain why you believe your probation should be terminated early. You may call witnesses to testify on your own behalf. You and any of your witnesses will be subject to questioning by the Deputy Attorney General. And again, the board is concerned with any rehabilitation activities that you might have engaged in after your license was disciplined. You're reminded that the board does have the petition package, so you don't necessarily have to repeat anything in the package unless you wanted to point something out. After all the hearings, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. So you're not going to receive a decision today, but you'll receive it at some point, either by email or by the mail at some point in the near future. Ms. Ledesma, do you have any questions at all at this point?
No questions.
All right, Ms. Ledesma, I'm going to put you under oath. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am? All right, thank you, Ms. Ledesma.
This is a moderator, if I can interrupt real quick. Our petitioner's video, I don't see it on right now. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Attorney General Jarvis for the orientation and presentation of the documents. Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter first arose via an accusation filed on October 19, 2018 against petitioner's pharmacist license subsequent to a conviction for wet reckless driving and driving without a driver's license. The date of those convictions was August 10th of 2017. As we probably all know, wet reckless driving means driving recklessly and endangering others on the road while under the influence of alcohol. Petitioner's blood alcohol level was 0.13%. Additionally, there was an empty medication vial of Klonopin on the passenger seat. Petitioner admitted to the arresting officers that she had taken the Klonopin, but did not specify how recently nor how many. The other circumstances of this wet reckless were that petitioner was driving and collided with a semi-truck. Upon exiting her vehicle, petitioner showed obvious signs of alcohol intoxication. Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board for 3 years of probation. That probation became effective on March 7th of 2019. If you can do the math, that means that more than 4 years have passed. However, the probation was told for some time and petitioner is still currently in the wrap-up period of the Pharmacist Recovery Program, or PRP. Petitioner has been 100% compliant on probation. Now, with the petition, petitioners provided the following documents. Petitioner paid $2,906 in investigation and prosecution costs. Those costs have been satisfied in full. Petitioner submitted 31.5 hours of qualified continuing education. Now, this is qualified pursuant to statute and was taken from November 2020 to November of 2022. Petitioner had submitted 55.5 hours total, but some of those hours were not qualified. Petitioner also provided her most recent performance evaluation from her employer, evidence of paying for the drug testing pursuant to probation, a few of the Pharmacist Recovery Program reports indicating that she is doing well. Petitioner also provided some information about her criminal conviction information, indicating that she has completed her criminal probation successfully. Finally, petitioner provided 9 letters of recommendation, and all 9 were able to be verified by the board staff. In these letters, petitioner's peer recovery support group facilitator writes that petitioner is in recovery from alcoholism and has addressed her mental health issues, which had made her quite fragile when entering the program. Petitioner's psychiatrist writes that petitioner is motivated for treatment and has improved her mood stability and resistance to flashbacks and PTSD. Petitioner's manager and worksite monitor states that petitioner is reliable and consistent and that she is ready and appropriate to terminate this probation. A pharmacist coworker writes that petitioner is a positive contributor to the profession of pharmacy and has remorse for her past mistakes. An optometrist writes that petitioner is compassionate, dependable, and strong and resilient. Petitioner's sponsor writes that petitioner is more than ready to move on and end probation early and is a great and active member of AA. 3 other members of AA wrote letters for petitioner echoing the same sentiments. So Exhibit 1 that I previously submitted to OAH is the petition packet consisting of all of those documents just identified, and also including the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording for this proceeding, and a memorandum to the board also sending out some of this same information. At this time, I would like to move that Exhibit 1 be admitted.
Sorry for the interruption. We don't see petitioner. Is she on? Is her phone? Miss Victoria, we do ask that you please stay your camera on. That's why we did ask if you would like to rather come later, but we do need to see you. So we could please keep that on.
Sorry, is there a way to give access to my other account?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I can move that back up.
Sorry for all the technical difficulties, everyone, today.
This is the moderator. Will you have your camera on the other account?
Yes, I will. I'm turning it on. Hi, do you hear me now? This is my lot with my other laptop.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm so sorry about that. I didn't expect to go early and do a drug test today.
All right, Christina, sorry for the interruption. I apologize sincerely. Go
No
ahead.
problem. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, Exhibit 1 is the petition packet consisting of the documents that I had just identified and also includes the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and a memorandum to the board, which sets out some of the same information. At this time, I would ask that this be admitted into evidence as Exhibit 1.
All right, the documents have been collectively marked as Exhibit 1 and will be admitted unless there's some objection by the petitioner. Ms. Ledesma, any objections to the admission of the petition packet?
No, that's fine.
All right, so it's admitted. Thank you, Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then Exhibit 2, which I really just separated out for ease of reference, is the underlying decision and order, the stipulation in this matter. And I would ask that that also be admitted at this time.
All right, the underlying decision has been marked as Exhibit 2 and will be admitted. And Ms. Ledesma, if you object to any of these documents that are being offered, just let me know. If not, I'll just go ahead and admit them. So Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. All right, Ms. Ledesma, now it's your opportunity to testify and make a presentation before the board. Again, you may testify on your own behalf. You can call witnesses if you so wish. The board has the benefit of reading your petition package, so you don't have to necessarily repeat anything in there. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor, Deputy Attorney General, and members of the board, and for your patience, and apologize for the technical issues. But thank you for granting me the opportunity to present my petition for early termination of probation. As mentioned, I fulfilled all terms of probation with full compliance, and I am continuing to complete Maximus, the Pharmacist Recovery Program, or PRP, which I have been in transition since October 2022. I would now like to share my journey, which showcases my strong recovery program, unwavering commitment to uphold the oath of the pharmacist, and dedication to serving the community. I deeply regret my actions of driving under the influence and crashing into a semi-truck. I'm grateful that no one was injured, and I'm thankful that I survived. Following the event, I promptly sought the guidance of a therapist and psychiatrist, and I continue to do so today. At that time, I did not acknowledge that I had an issue with alcohol, and I considered the incident as a poor lapse of judgment. Upon being informed of my upcoming probation, I made the decision to abstain from alcohol. My sobriety date is January 1st, 2019, and I started probation in March 2019. Due to the probation restrictions, I was laid off from work since my employer was not able to accommodate the conditions. I started random drug testing, attending health support group meetings, participating in AA meetings, and regularly checking in with my case manager and the board. Although the probation requirements were overwhelming at first, it ultimately became a life-changing experience. Through my participation in AA, I came to the realization that I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I recall a meeting where names were drawn from a basket. I was chosen to speak. I typically keep my emotions to myself, so I felt very nervous. However, I summoned the courage to share my entire story from the podium. I felt such a huge sense of emotional and spiritual relief, and people expressed their gratitude and related to my journey. It was the first time I felt truly heard and understood, and in that moment, I recognized that I found a supportive community within AA. Today, I have over 4 years of sobriety. I have an amazing sponsor and a strong support network. Working through the 12 steps was enlightening because it provided me with a deeper understanding of myself, my character defects, and how I can continuously improve as a person. I attend 2 to 3 meetings per week, including a women's step study meeting and an Asian American women's speaker meeting. I've been asked to be the main speaker in numerous meetings, and I have taken on several commitments within AA, such as secretary, scribe, social chair, and more. My daily routine consists of prayer, meditation, and practicing gratitude, and maintaining connections with others in the program. This past weekend, in fact, I attended an AA conference in Twin Peaks with my sober family, which was an incredibly enriching experience that solidified my lifelong dedication to sobriety. I would like to share a quote I came across in a meeting. It goes, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. Throughout my sobriety, I've faced numerous challenges such as identity theft, harassment, assault, and loss. However, with the support of this program, the sober community, and my faith in God, I have overcome these adversities. In the beginning of probation, I secured my dream position as a pharmacy program coordinator at one of the nation's top hospitals. The understanding and support I have received by my employer have been instrumental in my personal and professional growth. They have provided me with counseling and valuable resources to nurture my mental and emotional well-being, as well as foster my development as a competent and compassionate healthcare professional. Outside of work, I have dedicated myself to professional growth by continuously striving to enhance my skills and knowledge. I have been published in 2 journals. I consistently stay updated on clinical guidelines, Board of Pharmacy, CAC recommendations, and more. I recently renewed my board certification in pharmacotherapy, and I had the privilege of volunteering at a pharmacy by administering COVID vaccines. And it was an honor to contribute to the collective effort aimed at overcoming the pandemic. In my personal life, I've taken proactive measures to make amends and cultivate stronger relationships. Through self-reflection and self-improvement, I have become a better daughter, sister, partner, and friend. The journey of recovery has led me to discover new passions that bring me joy and fulfillment. I have dedicated myself to fostering animals and providing care for my rescue animals. And additionally, I've embraced my love for hiking, and I have set a goal to visit all 63 national parks in the US. And I'm proud to share that I've already explored 25 so far. My life has taken a remarkable turn for the better. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope with others. Throughout this process, I have been blessed with an unwavering support system consisting of family and friends who have stood by me every step of the way. The early termination of probation would grant me freedom to travel internationally. My family went on a last-minute trip to visit my grandmother in the Philippines while she was hospitalized, and I was really sad that I could not go. So I hope I can have the chance to visit her soon this year. Furthermore, the termination of probation would alleviate financial concerns, particularly regarding the management of student loans once they restart. This relief would enable me to continue to provide financial support for my family. Considering the profound transformation I've undergone over these past few years, I humbly request that you give strong consideration to my petition for early termination of probation. I express my sincere appreciation for your time and attention to my case. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ledesma, much appreciated. Ms. Jarvis, or we can either do either order. Ms. Jarvis can ask questions, and then we'll open it up to the panel the board members. So Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ledesma, what is your understanding of your remaining requirements under PRP? You said you're in a transition phase since October of 2022. What's left to do?
So the transition phase is a year long, and the difference between transition and prior to that probation is that we are not required to submit documentation of AAs, and we do not have to go to health support group meetings.
I'm sorry, could you back up just a step? You blanked out for a second there, your audio. So you are not required to do what?
We're not required to send documentation of AA meetings, and we don't have to go to support group meetings, but I still go to AA meetings. And we still have to check in with a case manager every month. But other than that, there isn't many, there's just less restrictions than before. And I understand that I would tentatively finish October of this year. I didn't anticipate like when I would get the trial and things like that. So I understand I might not finish as early as I thought, but yeah, I understand it's just less restrictions during the transition phase.
And what do you mean by that? You didn't know how long it would take to get this hearing today?
Yeah, I didn't know how, yeah, exactly. I didn't know how long it would take to get the hearing, and then I wasn't sure if transition exactly ended in October, because I thought maybe there would be additional steps after transition, like maybe I would need okay from the board afterwards. I was told about that. So it's not exactly clear when I would finish. And since I already went through the whole process, I just decided to go with the hearing since I already applied.
So is it your understanding that if your petition is granted here today and you are terminated from probation, that you would no longer be required to continue with the PRP?
Correct.
And so it would be your intention to no longer continue with any of the requirements of the PRP?
That is correct. And the reason behind that is because I already learned everything that I need to know, and I'm very confident about my recovery program. So I don't have any desire to drink again, and I think I'm 100% ready.
And you've mentioned being pretty active in AA throughout your recovery program. Do you intend to stay active if your probation is terminated?
Yes, definitely. My closest friends are in AA, and my life has changed so much since being active. Been there for me with all the challenges I've dealt with, and yeah, they're my closest support system. So I definitely will continue.
Through this process of PRP, AA, and probation, were you able to identify what was sort of triggering you to drink to excess?
Yes. So some of the reasons were I have issues with perfectionism. I'm very, very hard on myself if I make mistakes. And I guess I've learned through the program that I need to, remind myself I'm human. It's okay to make mistakes. And I've learned that the most important relationship we'll ever have is with ourselves. So I'm learning to treat myself with kindness. Another thing is, as I mentioned earlier, is I've had difficulty with expressing emotions just through my childhood. And I didn't feel like I was in a safe place in the past, but now that I found AA, I feel more comfortable with expressing my emotions. So in the past, I would use drinking as a form of escape. But now that I have new coping mechanisms, I no longer have that desire, and I have a lot of other tools that I can rely on if I have those triggers.
Can you explain what some of those other tools or what have you used to fill your life now that you no longer have alcohol in it specifically?
Yeah, so when I would go to meetings, I'll share. I will talk to my sponsor or other people in the program. I see my therapist and psychiatrist almost every month, and I will continue to do so because they've been amazing. I'm an amazing support to me. I exercise every day. I meditate. I pray. I do a lot of deep breathing and try to go out in nature as much as I can. So those are some of the things that I would do and would continue to do.
And is it your understanding at this point that it is only completion of PRP that is keeping you on probation? You've satisfied all the other terms and otherwise your 36 months of probation would be up?
Correct.
I have no other
That's
questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jarvis. And Madam Moderator, I'm going to depend on you if anyone to call out anyone who has questions for Ms. Ledesma.
Your Honor, the way we usually do it, we just go down the roll of all the board members, if that's okay. So I am more than happy to go down the list for you.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
Okay, Maria, do you have any questions?
Just a statement to congratulate Dr. Ledesma for her journey these last few years, and to thank you very much for your presentation today and your written materials. That was very helpful for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Renee.
Hi, this is Renee. Yeah, I wanted to reiterate Maria's words as well. Victoria, your presentation, I appreciate your being able to be resilient in that little stressful technology moment of transferring to get yourself online here. So we appreciate that. And I recognize it's not easy. I just had one question. I was just wondering, what is your future plans for your pharmacy career once you, let's say, whether there was early termination or if you go to the end of, end of the plan, do you plan, I'm just wondering if you are considering any other type of pharmacy environment.
Yes, that's a good question. I actually love where I work right now. I have a very supportive team and I have a really good work-life balance. I really love my coworkers, so I do plan to stay. When probation does end, I'll be able to do certain things that I miss doing, such as precepting residents and teaching. I used to do that a lot in my PGY1 and PGY2, and I've done lectures at pharmacy schools. So I haven't been able to do that in quite some time. So I'm excited to kind of get back into that. And there are some other restrictions as well, like unable to like order medications on behalf of the provider. So when probation ends, I'll be able to practice as a pharmacist to my full capacity. But I do plan to stay. I mean, it could change, but I really love where I work.
Sure. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Hi there. Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. The first one is in the police report and the materials provided, and in addition to the drunk driving, there was also an empty bottle of Klonopin, and that wasn't really touched upon in any of the other materials. So I wanted to ask you about that and how pill usage fits into your story and what the nature of that is. So that's my first question.
Yes, that's a good question. To be honest, I don't recall, just because I was, I was in an accident. I went to the hospital, so I don't remember the details too well, but I know that I did take the Klonopin likely at the same time, and I recognize that no one should ever do that because of the risk of respiratory depression and just everything. So I no longer take that medication. I never will. And I'm very remorseful for what I did because I could have hurt someone. And I'm very fortunate it was just myself. I mean, I'm still here, but but yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Got it. Thank you. And as someone who is in active recovery, and given that we, as a state and country, are in a overwhelming opioid epidemic, and you're going to be dispensing, potentially dispensing very highly addictive substances, how is your experience in recovery going to inform how you exercise your corresponding responsibility as you're potentially fulfilling prescriptions to people who are themselves in active addiction but not in recovery? How does that inform how you're going to look at that?
It's a good question. I do want to mention I don't work in a pharmacy and I will not review opioids or controlled substances. Probably the only controlled medication that is testosterone. But I do, I will review medications for appropriateness. If, let's say, I do deal with opioids in the future, I will check cures. I will discuss with the provider.
This is the moderator. Victoria, your last statement, it got cut off. I'm not sure if maybe you have some headphones that you can connect or get closer to your mic.
Okay. Let's switch. I could use a different audio. My laptop. Maybe I can go on my phone.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Continue on. We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, opioids. I don't know how much what was heard, but I essentially, if there is any concern that the patient may be abusing the medication, will not fill it or prescribe it, I will definitely discuss with the provider and discuss with the patient cures. But just to let you know, I don't deal with opioids.
Right. Thank you. Well, thank you for answering those questions. And just as I am also in active recovery from alcoholism, just want to say how proud I am of the work that you have done and the investment that you've put in your recovery. It's clear you've done the work, and I'm excited that you'll continue doing the work, and I hope you'll use your experience and the journey you've been on to be a very public example to others who have been in your situation. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. And Jose, any questions?
No questions for me at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jose. KK?
No questions.
Thank you, KK. Ricardo?
Yes, I just wanted to say, thank you for coming before the board and showing the courage to talk to us, and I appreciate that. I do believe in redemption, and you've done everything that you needed to do to get yourself back on board, and I wish you luck in getting your license back and continuing to be, or actually pursuing your career. Thank you again. God bless.
Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Dr. Ledesma. Just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story. And I really appreciate your vulnerability, particularly talking about, what led you to alcoholism in the first place. That was very touching. I think you may have said this, but I might have missed it. Do you intend to continue with your participation in AA to the same level once you are out of the PRP?
Yes, definitely. A lot of my closest friends are in AA, and it's really important to continue for me just because it helps me stay connected with others. I want to be able to help others achieve sobriety as well. And it's just my place where I honestly feel safe. It's been there for me just for so long. So I do just as active conference. Honestly changed my life. So sorry. Yes, I will. I continue to be active.
Sorry, Victoria. I think your audio's cutting in and out.
Okay.
but Nicole, hopefully you were able to capture most of the comments. Okay.
I did. I definitely heard that it's very valuable to you and you intend to continue it. So that was my last question. Thank you so much, Dr. Ledesma.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason, any questions or comments?
Just want to reiterate my fellow board members on saying thank you for appearing before the board. We know it is not easy to be here today. Congratulations on your sobriety and your honesty that you bring to this meeting, your flexibility with these technical issues. I think it shows that you are comfortable and can handle situations with confidence and grace. So congratulations. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jason. Dr. Ledesma, thank you. Just a couple questions. First is just your job and the role you have at the current employment. What kind of work do you do?
So I work as a pharmacy program coordinator. It's kind of a mix of managed care, drug use management, and drug information. I essentially review requests for usually medical benefit drugs, sometimes pharmacy benefit drugs that are high cost, and it will be reviewed against guidelines or the insurance criteria.
Oh, you're cutting off there again, but I think I got the bulk of it. Okay. And just understanding your PRP, did I hear that it's going to be completed a year from your transition phase, right? So it would be October of 2023. Is that the Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, that is all I have. Back to you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, President O. I'm going to bump it back to Ms. Jarvis. Do you have anything further?
No follow-up questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay, so before I conclude the hearing in this matter, Ms. Jarvis, do you have any closing or anything of that sort?
I do not.
Okay, very good. Well, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted. We're off the record in this matter, and I believe we'll proceed to the next petition.
Your Honor, I believe this is actually a good timing to take 10-minute break for our members. So we'll come back at 10:30. We'll just take a roll call. Your Honor, are you back? Thank you. And Marie, are you back? Jig?
I'm here.
Hi, Jig. Renee?
Present.
Hi, Renee. Trevor? Hi, Trevor.
Yes.
Jose? Actually, is probably gonna have to skip this one. KK? KK? Going back to Maria?
Ricardo here.
Hi. Hi, Ricardo. Maria, are you here?
Present.
Hi. KK? Nicole?
I'm present, sorry, little
Oh,
late.
hi, KK. There you are. Hi, KK. Nicole?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Nicole. Jason?
I'm here, Sung.
Hi, Jason. I am here. All right, we have a quorum, Your Honor. Just for the minutes, remember Jose had to step away. He may be joining in about half an hour, but he probably will have to step this aside on the deliberation for this case, just for the record, and turn it back to you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, President O. I'm going to go ahead and call the case. We are here this morning before the Board of Pharmacy to review the petition for early termination of probation of Vern Raymond Burling. This is OAH case number 2023-050-437. My name is Danette Brown, and I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings assigned to preside over these petition matters this morning. A quorum of the board is present. I've already called the case for Mr. Burling. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jarvis. And just checking, Mr. Burling, are you present?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burling. And are you choosing to represent yourself here this morning?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me go ahead and explain a little bit about the proceeding in this matter. The board is concerned in this hearing about your rehabilitation since your license was placed on probation. The Deputy Attorney General will first proceed to provide an orientation in this matter. And after that, you, Mr. Burling, will have the right to make a presentation under oath to explain to the board why you believe your probation should be terminated early.
I'm so sorry, Your Honor, again, for technical interruption. Mr. Burling, I don't see you on the video. So,
One moment. Do you
there
see
you
me
are.
now?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, President O. All right, Mr. Burling, did you hear everything up to what I everything up to this point, or shall I repeat my?
No, I heard everything. Thank you.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay, so again, as I stated, you will have the right to make a presentation to testify on your own behalf under oath as to why you believe your probation should be terminated early. You may call witnesses to testify on your own behalf, and you will be subject to any questioning by the Deputy Attorney General as well as any member of the board. The board is particularly concerned with any rehabilitation activities that you may have engaged in since the time your license was disciplined. You're reminded that the board has a copy of your petition packet, so you don't necessarily have to repeat anything in the packet. But if there's something that you want to point out, you can certainly do that. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. So you won't receive a decision today, but you will at some time in the near future, either through the mail or through email. Mr. Burling, do you have any questions at this time?
No, I don't.
Okay, very good. I'm going to put you under oath, so please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burling. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Jarvis for an orientation of the case as well as the presentation of the documents. Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter does have a lot of details, and so I'm going to try to go through them fairly briefly, but I think that some of these details are very important for the record, so please bear with me. This matter arose via an accusation filed on April 24th, 2017 against petitioner's pharmacist license, as well as his pharmacy license, where he was a 50% owner and the pharmacist in charge, PIC. Back in 2014, so 3 years prior to the accusation being filed, a physician nearby was convicted of felony charges of dispensing controlled substances for invalid purposes. Petitioner's pharmacy was one of the top 2 pharmacies at which this physician's patients had been filling their prescriptions. An investigation of petitioner resulted. During an inspection on January 8th of 2015, board inspectors observed an overall extremely concerning lack of security in the pharmacy. Another physician, so there's 2 physicians at issue in this case, that petitioner had filled prescriptions for, had 98% of the prescriptions for hydrocodone with promethazine with codeine, and then were written on sequentially numbered prescription forms. Petitioner also filled a prescription for OxyContin 80 milligrams to be taken 4 times daily. As many of the observers may know, but many probably don't, OxyContin is an extended release medication, and it is designed and intended to be taken only twice daily. So for it to be taken 4 times daily would put this patient at risk of overdose. On another instance, petitioner's pharmacy was robbed. Petitioner was tied up during that robbery, which occurred on November 21st, 2014. Another armed robbery was attempted but thwarted on December 12th of 2014. Petitioner told board inspectors during that January 2015 inspection that the pharmacy had been robbed 3 times in the past 6 months, and that he believed that his dispensing practices had made the pharmacy a target for theft. Petitioner failed to alert police to these thefts and failed to report them to the board within 30 days as required. A drug audit showed that, among other issues, petitioner had a shortage of 963 hydrocodone tablets. 33.2% of petitioner's controlled substance prescription fills were for hydrocodone. 16.6% were for oxycodone. The 2 physicians referenced earlier were the top 2 controlled substance providers in this pharmacy, and yet their offices were 23 and 16 miles away from the pharmacy. The patients themselves also demonstrated multiple red flags. Each patient visited between 4 and 17 pharmacies. Over 54.1% of all prescriptions at the pharmacy were purchased with cash. Over half of those only filled prescriptions for controlled substances, and an additional 1/3 got only mostly controlled substances and did not fill some non-controlled. Almost half were prescribed promethazine with codeine on a monthly basis. As we all may know, that is not indicated for promethazine with codeine, as that is a short-term drug. Most patients saw more than one physician. One of the patients saw 31 different physicians. During 5 days in August of 2013, this is all coming to light again through the audit, 49 patients saw the same physician and then had their prescriptions filled by petitioner on the same date. So in each of those days, it would be 9, 10, up to 12 patients apparently went to the doctor, then drove the 23 miles directly to petitioner's pharmacy to fill that prescription the very same day. Many of these controlled substance prescriptions were filled early. In addition, a comparison of 5 pharmacies located within a 5-mile range of petitioner's pharmacy, including 3 major chain pharmacies, showed that during this audit period, petitioner filled 1,592 prescriptions by the prescriber, who was later convicted of a felony. And these other 5 pharmacies filled only 10 between all 5 of them. The other physicians' numbers are similar. Well, petitioner filled 1,361 prescriptions during this audit period. The same other 5 pharmacies filled only 5. All of this is to say these patients and prescriptions waved a plethora of red flags that petitioner dutifully ignored each and every day. There were essentially 5 causes for discipline, although in the accusation they're split out as 5 against the pharmacy and then essentially the same 5 against petitioner for a total of 10, but I'm going to address them combined. So specifically, petitioner failed to record the quantity of drugs received in his controlled substance ordering system, which he purportedly used for inventory management and tracking. Petitioner failed to maintain any current inventory. Petitioner filled erroneous or uncertain prescriptions, as previously described. Petitioner failed to exercise his corresponding responsibility as a pharmacist to ensure that prescriptions are issued for a legitimate medical purpose. And petitioner failed to report drug losses of controlled substances to the board within 30 days of the loss. Ultimately, petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board, which became effective on August 2nd of 2018. This stipulation required petitioner to surrender the pharmacy license and place his personal pharmacist license on probation for 4 years with specified terms and conditions of probation. One of those terms included a suspension from practice until such time as petitioner completed remedial education on prescription drug abuse or corresponding responsibility. Since that time, petitioner has been 100% compliant with probation. However, petitioner's probation has been told for approximately 26 months during the time period since he was placed on probation, when he was unable to work for the requisite number of hours in those months. In one case, petitioner was laid off due to the PIC not being able to afford the required supervision. And in another, he did not work sufficient hours due to his wife being diagnosed with cancer. According to petitioner's probation monitor, at no time have any of petitioner's supervisors or employers expressed any doubts in petitioner's abilities to practice pharmacy and to practice pharmacy correctly and legally. Petitioner has also paid $15,000 in investigation and prosecution costs in full. With his petition, petitioner provided the following documents. Petitioner submitted 49.25 hours of qualified continuing ed, which was taken from November of 2020 to November of 2022. Petitioner did submit a total of 127.25 hours, but only 49.25 of those hours were qualified. Petitioners also submitted 7 letters of recommendation, and all 7 were able to be verified by board staff. In these letters, 2 are from petitioner's current employers, and they state that they support petitioner's request for early termination and that he is capable, shows good judgment, has a perfect record of maintaining inventory records of controlled drugs. A pharmacist coworker and a technician coworker also echo these sentiments. A pharmacist and a friend who used to work with petitioner states that petitioner is knowledgeable, gives back to the community, and helps his coworkers. Additionally, he has kept an unblemished record since these violations occurred. A friend who shares a hobby with petitioner states that petitioner has good character and has shared information about his probation and his struggles openly with this friend. A friend and small business owner near the pharmacy who used to fill her prescriptions at petitioner's pharmacy states that petitioner always gave excellent service and was a good pharmacist and a loss to the community when the pharmacy had to be closed. At this time, I would like to identify and move Exhibit 1 that was previously uploaded to the OAH system as the petition packet consisting of these documents and also including the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and a memorandum to the board sending out some of the same information.
All right, the documents or the petition packet has been marked as Exhibit 1 and will be admitted. Mr. Verling, if you have any objections or any comments about the admission of these documents, you can raise it. But at this time, I'm going to go ahead and admit Exhibit 1.
I have
Thank you,
no
Your Honor.
objection.
Thank you. And then Exhibit 2 is the underlying decision, the stipulation, and the order in this matter. And I would like to move that as well.
All right, Exhibit 2 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to petitioner.
Okay. Good morning. I would like to thank the members of the board and the Attorney General's office for hearing my petition today. I'd also like to thank Pam Kemp, Administrative Case Analyst, for preparing the packets and interviewing my friends and colleagues who supported this petition. I'm requesting early termination of probation because my wife, Cheryl, was diagnosed with breast cancer in June of 2022. Also in June of 2022, we were blessed with a grandson born to my son and daughter-in-law who live in St. Augustine, Florida. Due to those events, my wife and I wanted to move to Florida to be close to my family during this very difficult and uncertain time. I hope to be able to practice pharmacy in Florida, but I must have a clear license in California in order to apply for licensure in Florida. We moved to Florida in late December, and I have been flying back and forth to California to work and continue to comply with the work requirement of probation. In requesting the early termination of probation, I would like to first take full responsibility for my professional misconduct. that led to my revocation of my license and probation, and I deeply regret my conduct. While I was owner and PIC of Point Pharmacy in Richmond, California, which I started in July of 2011, and between the dates of April 2012 and March 2014, I failed to stay current on pharmacy law, failed to maintain close contact with the board, and failed to utilize the board to guide my professional conduct. Consequently, I violated pharmacy law and dispensed controlled substances in violation of corresponding responsibility, and filled obviously false and invalid prescriptions. In addition, the inspectors found other administrative violations that in total constituted a cavalier attitude towards handling and dispensing controlled substances. I recognize those violations and take full responsibility for all of them. I'm deeply ashamed of them. In considering my request for early termination of probation, I would hope the board will consider my professional conduct since the inspection and audit that occurred in early January of 2015. I continued as pharmacist in charge of Point Pharmacy through July 2016, and I sold Point Pharmacy in March 2016. During that time, I maintained full compliance with handling and dispensing controlled substances. In November 2014, I removed Norco 10 and promethazine and codeine from the pharmacy formulary and stopped dispensing those medications to anyone. There were no further complaints or accusations or incidents since that time. Subsequent to July 2016, I worked as a contract staff pharmacist for San Francisco General Hospital through Azareth Health, a staffing company. I worked at San Francisco General Hospital in the inpatient pharmacy through July of 2018. San Francisco General Hospital is a teaching hospital for UCSF School of Medicine, and I found the work there teaching residents rewarding and challenging. Again, during that 2-year period, there were no violations or problems regarding professional conduct in any way. On August 4th, 2018, my probation began, and incidentally, I was terminated by the hospital at that point. Since then, I have completed 29 months of the work requirement of probation in retail pharmacies, 10 months in Mercury Pharmacy in Vallejo from January 2019 to October 2019. I was sidetracked for some time caring for my elderly in-laws during the pandemic when my mother-in-law became unsafe at home and both mother and father-in-law were forced to move into our home at the onset of the pandemic in January 2020. I started working again in July 2021 after mom had passed and dad was placed with my sister-in-law that July. Started at Central RX Pharmacy in Brentwood and then at Sunset Wellness Pharmacy in San Francisco in January 2022. I continue to work at both pharmacies. In total, that amounts to 3.5 years post incident, but pre-probation, and 2.5 years during probation of professional good conduct, or 6 years all in all. In addition to the 6 total years of professional good conduct, I completed the ethics course, all prescribed remedial education, paid the cost of investigation, and cooperated with the board. In addition, I would like to share some of the introspection and self-assessment I have done in light of the misconduct and consequences thereof, and my personal desire to understand and prevent any future problems. In addition to the invaluable insights provided by the ethics course, I offer the following. First, I think it's important for me to recognize how my values can lead to conscious and unconscious bias. I have read some of the works of Dr. John Demartini on values, psychology, perception, and bias. Dr. Demartini points out that values affect us unconsciously and consciously. For example, a young mother will unconsciously select stores and situations that apply to children and families while shopping at the mall. Conversely, a single entrepreneur will see and focus on business of the stores in the mall and perceive things the mother would miss. Why is this important to me? Because it illustrates how important it is for me to identify and analyze my values. If my highest value is fidelity and dedication to my profession and ethical conduct, that will consciously and unconsciously affect my professional conduct. When these are my values, I will look for and notice opportunities I may otherwise miss. Examples of this for me are taking the PrEP certification course and the long-acting injectable certification course, even though they were not required by my employees or the board. If, on the other hand, my values are financial success, I may fail at or compromise my professional or ethical fidelity. After much reflection, I believe I must constantly guard against confusing good ethical conduct with being ethical. Good ethical conduct occurs minute by minute, day by day. It means applying ethics and professional fidelity to each situation as I encounter it. I must avoid falling into the subtle trap of thinking I am ethical, or in other words, anything I do is ethical because I did it. Hubris leads to nemesis, as they say, and there are countless examples in life. I firmly believe ethics is the compass that points to the true north of fidelity to the profession and ultimately financial success as well, even though this course may demand more of me. I have been reading the Federalist Papers, and I am impressed that the authors sought to establish the freest, the fairest, and safest country, rather than the most financially successful. These were the ideals of civil rights and liberties that have been the compass of our nation and led to the financial success that resulted. Similarly, I believe professional and ethical fidelity are my compass that will guide me to personal and professional success and keep me on course through the rest of my professional and personal life. In conclusion, I suggest granting the petition is justified because probation began in 2018, nearly 5 years ago. I have completed the ethics and remedial education. I have paid the cost of investigation. My record of nearly 6 years of good professional conduct reflects my understanding and ongoing compliance with all pharmacy laws, especially as they relate to handling and dispensing controlled substances. I have the support of friends and colleagues and supervisors. This experience has forced introspection, fidelity to my profession, and respect for the profession, the community, and the Board of Pharmacy. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Burling. Ms. Jarvis, any questions on cross-examination?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Burling, you mentioned receiving invaluable insights from the ethics course, and I know you were talking about some of the other reading and things that you've been doing, but can you talk a little bit more about that specific ethics course and what you learned there? Now, is that the course where you do the course and then you do the follow-up at 6 and then 12 months?
Correct.
Okay, can you explain just a little bit more about that and what insights you did receive?
Well, in the ethics course, in decision-making, one of the first things that they taught us to do was to list all of the people impacted by the decision. And another one was to list what was the ethical conflict, 2 possible choices. And then it encouraged us to think of what's the third unseen choice, which is a better way. So in an ethical conflict, obviously you seem to be faced with 2 bad choices, but there may be a good choice if you look for it. What that really taught me and impacted me is to think of how my conduct affected members of the community, the image of the profession, and myself. And I took a broader look at my conduct rather than just as dispensing a prescription. And it also led me to realize that there's a third way out. If you're having financial difficulties, find a third way to make it. You don't have to either go broke or do something unethical, even though that may be more difficult or expensive. That's all.
Thank you. You also mentioned that you were failing to stay current on pharmacy law, keeping close contact with the board, things like that at the time of the violations. Can you contrast what you were doing then for continuing ed? I mean, you still had a requirement to do continuing ed at that time, right? To how you view your continuing ed now.
Well, as I recall at that time, I don't recall the biggest emphasis on dispensing controlled substances, and I think it was also something that wasn't of interest to me. Quite honestly, it sounds funny, but most of my career was in inpatient pharmacy, and at that time I saw keeping track of controlled substances as a necessary chore, and I didn't see how it affects the profession and patients and how important it is to maintain good security. So I had a really kind of a distorted view towards the clinical side, but not appreciating the security side of pharmacy.
And then you were talking about how between the time that you stopped working or sold Point Pleasant to when then you went to work for the San Francisco hospital, you used the word incidentally. You said incidentally you were terminated by that hospital when you were placed on probation. Was it due to the probation or was there something else going on?
Due to the probation. They won't let anyone work there if you're on probation.
And was that due to the oversight issues or just a general policy, I guess?
I think it's a general policy. I think there's even a high-level administrative pharmacist who was let go for that reason.
And then you mentioned that you have actually physically moved to Florida at this time. Is that right?
Correct.
But then you're flying back here in order to work your, what are you required? 100 hours a month?
40 hours a month.
40 hours a month. So how does that work? Do you fly back here and work for a month or a week and then go back, or fly out?
That's about it, right? Yeah, a week sometimes too.
Okay. And you're currently working for two different, both retail pharmacies?
Correct.
What have you learned from working at those retail pharmacies that I guess would stand out to you as being different in how you ran your pharmacy back when these violations occurred?
Well, Central RX Pharmacy would be a good example. They dispense a lot of controlled substances because they service most of the hospice organizations in the East Bay and Western Central Valley. And they do a good job of keeping an electronic inventory, a hard copy written inventory, and a running label on the outside of each stock bottle of what the current number in the bottle is. So they're very strict and fastidious about their handling of controlled substances and dispensing them.
Great. Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. President O, do you want to poll the members for any questions?
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. Maria, any questions or comments?
Thank you. Just one question, Dr. Verling. You mentioned that your probation would have been completed if it hadn't been told. You mentioned that you have had no issues for the last 6 years, but more than 4 years during probation. Is that correct? Am I getting the timeline correct?
Well, I've been on probation nearly 5 years, but because of the tolling, I've only completed about 2.5 years of the work requirement. So 2.5 years of probation.
Okay.
And before probation started, I worked for 3.5 years without any incidents, including a 1.5 years as pharmacist in charge.
Okay, thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Renee?
I have no comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yeah, I have two main questions. The first is regarding the packet that was submitted on, you submitted two versions of the questionnaire I'm looking at, AGO-009, which was submitted in 2022, and the one right after that, AGO-010, which was submitted in 2023. I'll give you a second to get to that, because on number 4, in the one submitted in 2022, number of questions 4 and 5, you marked no to the questions are you now on probation or parole for any criminal or administrative violations? And in question 5, have you ever had disciplinary action taken against your pharmacy license or any other state? So to both of those in 2022, this is the form that stated 11/06/2022. You answered no to those questions. And the next page, AGO-010, you dated 2/27/23. You answered yes to those questions. So I'd like you to address that discrepancy.
Yeah, I misunderstood the question. When I read it, I assumed that the state of California knew that I was on probation here, and I assumed that it meant in other states, or if I had been under had any criminal issues anywhere. So that was drawn to my attention, and I said, "Oh no, of course, yes." When you're including California, so I didn't realize that I had to include California in that. I thought that the state of California knew that I was on probation since I was applying for early termination.
Thank you. And my next question, or could be questions, is do you believe that your actions contributed to the opioid epidemic in California? And if so, how?
Yes, I think that just dispensing large amounts of opioids, whether they're for, even if they're for legitimate use, contributes to the epidemic, because a significant number of patients start out with prescription drugs. It doesn't mean that they were prescribed prescription drugs, but they get them. Maybe they get them from a relative or a friend who doesn't want them or didn't need them or didn't use them, but they're out there. And just the last time I worked, it was like May 1st or 2nd. I was consulted by a young pharmacist about filling some morphine for a hospice patient, and he had noted that there was a few days before they were going to be out, and I said, well, let's wait to the last minute, because if they pass, then there'll be morphine there and somebody could get a hold of it, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So we're trying to reduce the total number of opioids out there, and I deeply regret my conduct that led to that.
In the course of your training, the ethics and whatnot, have you had any interaction with the addiction community or people who have been impacted by the opioid crisis through personal addiction made possible by the excessive number of opioids that have been made available? Have you, in addition to your personal and professional development and ethics development, have you engaged in any way with the addiction community?
No, I haven't.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trevor. KK?
No questions.
Thank you, KK. Ricardo?
Yeah, I don't have any questions also.
Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Dr. Verling. I just wanted to ask if we were to grant the early termination and you were to get a license in Florida, what kind of work would you be doing? Inpatient, outpatient, full-time, part-time? Like what kind of environment are you looking to participate in?
I'd want to work in a healthcare program, so like a hospital, and part-time. Hospital's really been the lion's share of my career, and that's where I enjoy it most.
Great. That was all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jason?
Hi, Dr. Verling. Just one quick question. A former board member would always go and say that rehabilitation requires acknowledgement of what has occurred. You indicate that dispensing all of these medications was a result of you not being up to date on pharmacy rules and law. Was that the only reason? Wasn't there a monetary component or some personal benefit?
Sure. There's a definitely a conflict of interest, and I failed in that. I failed to acknowledge that. I think there's a moral blindness that occurs there, and that's why I talked about values, and that's a big issue. And I'm not in retail pharmacy anymore, and I never will be. I'm 67 years old, and I'm just going to work part-time in a health system. But yeah, that was definitely a part of it. I have to admit it.
Thank you, Dr. Verling, and congratulations on the grandchild.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dr. Verling. Jason did kind of ask that question for me, but just to confirm, when you opened that pharmacy back almost 11, 12 years ago, Dr. Verling, so your, background was not in retail pharmacy from what I read, but you did go into retail pharmacy at that time. Was the motivation at that time, and I'm not trying to rehash the past, but just trying to get clarification, was more of a financial motivation as well as what were your kind of motivation, I guess I should ask?
Well, I wanted to work a day shift and less weekends. And I really wanted to work in a small community. I thought it would be nice to work in a small community. And that was really my motivation. So it wasn't financial. It was actually, I made less money every year when I worked in Point Pharmacy than I did before and afterwards. So it wasn't financial. It was to serve the community. And it just worked out the way it did. So.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Verling, and I wish you the best. And that is all, Your Honor.
Thank you, President O. Ms. Jarvis, anything further?
I have no follow-up questions and no closing. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted, and we are off the record in this matter, and we will proceed to the next petition.
Thank you, Your Honor. And members and Your Honor, we might just proceed for now with the next case. I think it's Albert Daher, but the timing of it, hopefully we can get through. But if we don't get through, hopefully by noon, we might have to take an awkward lunch break, but we'll see how it goes. So just a heads up. But we don't have to break at 12, but I would just try to break at 12 if we can. So.
All right, this is the moderator. Mr. Daher, can I get a quick mic check from you?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, and it looks like your camera's working, so I'll go ahead and pass it over to our ALJ.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. All right, let's go ahead and proceed on the record. We are here this morning before the Board of Pharmacy for the petition for reinstatement of Albert F. Daher. This is agency case number, oops, strike that. This is OAH case number 2023-050-500. My name is Danette Brown, and I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings assigned to hear this petition. A quorum of the board is present. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. And petitioner is present. And Mr. Daher, are you choosing to represent yourself here this morning?
Yes, I am. However, I am accompanied here today with my son, Michael, and a very close friend, Honorable James Copeland, retired, and they're here just as support to help support me through this hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Daher. I just wanted to quickly go through the procedures in this matter, and if you have any questions, just please raise it. This proceeding is concerned in hearing about your rehabilitation since your license was revoked. The Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to provide an orientation in this matter. After that, you, Mr. Daher, will have the right to make a presentation under oath, and you will be able to testify as to why you believe your license ought to be reinstated. You may also call witnesses to testify on your behalf. You and any witnesses will be subject to questioning by the Deputy Attorney General as well as the board. The board is particularly concerned with the rehabilitation activities you may have engaged in after your license was revoked. You're reminded that the board has a copy of your petition package, so you don't have to repeat what's in there, unless, of course, you want to point something out. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session. I should say hearings because we have 5 petition hearings. The board will go into closed session to deliberate, so you won't receive a decision today, but you will receive it sometime in the near future, either by email or by regular mail. At this time, Mr. Daher, do you have any questions regarding the process?
No, I don't.
Very good. So, Mr. Daher, at this time, I'm going to put you under oath, so please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Daher. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Jarvis for the orientation and the presentation of the documents. Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter arose through an accusation filed against petitioner as the owner and pharmacist in charge, PIC, of pharmacy J. Scott Drugs. This was a 28-page First Amendment accusation involving approximately 20 patients and 2 prescribers. It should also be noted at this point that the board's investigation focused only on these 2 prescribers due to the voluminous evidence developed from these 2 alone and did not go into any other prescribers or any other issues. Because this was such a voluminous case, I will not cover all of the facts. This is a summary with a few highlights, with the assumption that the board members have read the First Amendment accusation, as well as the board's 47-page decision after the rejection of the proposed decision revoking respondent's license, petitioner's license, I apologize. The public may also refer to those documents through the Department of Consumer Affairs breeze.ca.gov website. Petitioner is here today requesting reinstatement of his pharmacist license only. The causes for discipline that led to petitioner's revocation are that he excessively dispensed controlled substances to approximately 20 named and identified patients in violation of pharmacy law, which in some cases led to patient deaths or the exacerbation of drug addictions. Petitioner refilled prescriptions without prescriber authorization, failed to review drug therapies and patient medication records, failed to exercise his professional judgment, failed to review patient profiles prior to dispensing prescriptions, and committed unprofessional conduct at extremely high levels. At his initial hearing, petitioner denied all allegations and asked for the accusation to be dismissed. The facts underlying these charges are that in March and April of 2008, 7 patients of a physician prescriber, a Dr. Bass, died from drug overdoses. 5 of those 7 now deceased patients had filled their prescriptions at petitioner's pharmacy. The vast majority of the prescriptions issued by Dr. Bass, including prescriptions for these 5 deceased patients, were identical strengths, drugs, indications, uses, diagnosis, etc. At one point, petitioner personally filled a prescription providing a 22-year-old patient with 2 10-day supplies of hydrocodone 10s, that is 250 tablets, within just a 4-day span. So within 4 days, petitioner personally handed a patient 20 days worth of hydrocodone. Just over a year later, this patient died of hydrocodone overdose. Found next to the patient's bed was an empty bottle of that same strength of hydrocodone, a 10-day supply that had been dispensed to him by petitioner only 2 days prior to his death. So in 2 days, this patient took 10 days worth of the hydrocodone that was dispensed to him by petitioner. In response to this deceased patient's parents' complaint that petitioner had excessively dispensed these drugs, petitioner stated, quote, "We regret his death, but the patient is responsible for his own actions. Were his parents aware of his drug addiction? Did they do anything about it?" Another incident involves 3 adult members of the same family, 2 parents and an adult child. One of those parents worked for the previously mentioned Dr. Bass. These patients, in an 18-month period, all 3 received identical prescriptions from Dr. Bass. And during those 18 months, petitioner dispensed approximately 9,000 Norco pills, 1,960 OxyContin pills, 1,230 alprazolam pills, 480 diazepam pills, and 2,765 harispridol pills to this 3-person family. Regarding the extensive legal process, the due process, that petitioner has received in this matter, the first amended accusation was filed on February 24th, 2012. 15 days of hearing were held on various dates from October of 2012 through June of 2013, after which written arguments, closing arguments, were submitted to the court. A proposed decision was rendered, which the board non-adopted, and the board issued a decision after rejection on December 27, 2013. Just over a year later, on February 23rd, 2015, petitioner filed an application for a pharmacy technician registration. In this, petitioner stated that he intended to reestablish himself in the practice of pharmacy prior to reobtain his pharmacist license. That application was denied. Petitioner appealed and a hearing was held. The board later non-adopted and issued a decision after rejection on December 16, 2016, denying petitioner's application. On September 28, 2017, petitioner appeared before the board, requesting reinstatement for his pharmacist license, just as he does here today. That petition was denied. On June 18, 2020, petitioner again appeared before the board, requesting reinstatement, and that petition was denied. However, after the denial of that petition, petitioner also filed a petition for reconsideration of the denial. At issue in the petition for reconsideration was that the board had commented in the decision on petitioner's lack of judgment shown during the petition hearing, in that petitioner appeared on camera from his son's pharmacy, where petitioner also worked as an unlicensed pharmacy clerk, while petitioner was wearing a pharmacist jacket, a white jacket with the word pharmacist on it. which petitioner testified under oath at that time that he wore to work on a daily basis. Now, in the petition for reinstatement, petitioner then argued that he only wore this jacket for the petition hearing because it was cold, and his attorney said it was okay. So this petition for reconsideration also showed a lack of truthfulness, either at the petition hearing itself when petitioner was testifying under oath, or in the petition, as the two stories were not consistent. The board did ultimately deny that petition for reconsideration on October 8th of 2020. Petitioner has paid the cost recovery ordered for the underlying matter in full, which was approximately half of the costs incurred by the board in this matter. That is $57,595.50. Now, in support of his petition today, petitioner has submitted the following documents: continuing education certificates showing 53.75 hours taken from January of 2021 through July of 2022. Petitioner also provided 38 letters of recommendation. However, most of those, 34 of them, were outside of the parameters required by statute and therefore were unacceptable by verification. Essentially, these letters were just too old. They were already submitted to the board. The board already considered them in the 2020 petition. There were 4 letters that were acceptable pursuant to statute, and they were all verified by board staff. So in those 4 verified letters, which can be found at the pages Bates stamped 37 through 40, the authors write that they support petitioner. They think highly of his professionalism, his ethical standards, and his dedication to the practice of pharmacy. A pharmacist who has now worked with petitioner for 2 years states that as a new pharmacist, she appreciates the guidance the petitioner was able to give her, even though he lacked licensure himself, which she was aware of, and that she has learned from his example to take corresponding responsibility very seriously. Another pharmacist states that petitioner goes out of his way to help people in need, that he has high ethics and integrity, selflessness, compassion, and care. And finally, a pharmacy technician who has known petitioner for over 15 years states that petitioner is kind, compassionate, hardworking, and dedicated to the field of pharmacy. In petitioner's written explanations to the questions in the petition, he states that he takes full responsibility for his lapse in professional judgment and that he has remorse for his conduct and genuine heartache. He has done extensive volunteering outlined in the petition packet, including with individuals suffering from opioid addiction, and petitioner has taken many, many continuing education courses on his professional responsibilities as a pharmacist. Unfortunately, in some ways in this petition, petitioner still continues to minimize his conduct. On the page Bates stamped 8 of the petition, petitioner states that his license was revoked, quote, after the board found that my actions in filling otherwise legal prescriptions by 2 doctors, end of quote. This language eliminates the responsibility of the petitioner. It puts the onus of responsibility on the board by saying that the board found instead of my actions caused, and then inserting the quote otherwise legal prescription language to just again minimize that conduct. He's just continually minimizing and deflecting. He then states, quote, there are not as yet established protocols to guide one to recovery from a stake such as mine, end of quote. This again implies that he's basically doing his best without any guidance, when in fact he's in the exact same situation as any other licensee who lost their license. I mean, as we've seen here today, we had another petitioner already this morning who had very similar conduct, who has taken the rehabilitation steps. The board has heard many other petitions from other pharmacists who did not comply with their corresponding responsibility and have proceeded to rehabilitate themselves. I do admit that, however, other than these 2 statements, petitioner's rehabilitation evidence has been extensive and impressive. So Exhibit 1 that I would ask to be admitted into evidence is the petition packet submitted electronically to the Office of Administrative Hearings and includes the notice of hearing for today, the acknowledgement for electronic recording, the petition, and the other attachments.
All right, the documents have been marked as Exhibit 1 collectively. Mr. Daher, I know that you would like these in evidence, so I'm going to put them in evidence. If for whatever reason you object to the admission of any of the documents, just raise it. So Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then Exhibit 2, and this was uploaded separately, again, mostly for ease of reference, is all of the underlying decisions involving this petitioner. So that includes the original accusation and decision, the statement of issues and decision, and all of the prior petition hearing decisions. And I would ask that that be admitted for all purposes as well.
All right, those documents have collectively been marked as Exhibit 2 and will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to petitioner.
All right, Mr. Daher, now it's your opportunity to testify. Please proceed at any time.
Thank you. President O, Vice President Serpa, and members of the Board of Pharmacy and staff, thank you for scheduling my hearing today. Over the past 15 years, I have undergone a journey of remorse, rehabilitation, and contrition. I immigrated here from a war-torn Lebanon in 1970s. I put myself through college and pharmacy school, working at nights and weekends. I recognized that as a pharmacist, I could have a positive impact on patients' lives and dispense the drugs that they need to heal, treat, and mitigate their medical conditions. In the past 15 years, I, as well as both the pharmacy and medical communities, have learned a great deal about the root causes of the opioid epidemic. While I made mistakes in 2006 through 2008, I have had 15 long years to reflect on my role as a pharmacist and how to demonstrate my remorse, rehabilitation, and contrition to the board. To help prevent the mistakes I have made from ever happening again, I have undertaken a vigorous self-education and personal rehabilitation routine. In self-education, when my license was revoked, I immediately began self-educating myself on the risks, dangers, and proper administration of controlled substances and opioids. I have participated in more than 50 hours of continuing pharmacy education credits. I have also participated in other comprehensive CEs to broaden and enrich my understanding of modern pharmacology. I attended a seminar co-sponsored by the DEA regarding prescription drug abuse and what pharmacists can do to help combat the epidemic that our state and nation face. I took online seminars and became pharmacy regulatory specialist, substance abuse specialty pharmacist, and pain management specialty pharmacist. In community outreach, immediately after January 27, 2014, I tried to find a way to help give back to those afflicted with substance abuse addiction and to help me gain insight into those individuals afflicted with the same. This led me to volunteering at Western Pacific Medical Corporation, where I participated in 100 hours of volunteer service. I volunteered twice per week for 4 hours a day, so I could make a meaningful use of my time there, not only to self-educate, but to give back to those afflicted with substance abuse issues. After my time at Western Pacific Medical Corporation, I sought out a medical clinic where I could interact with a diverse patient population and help myself self-educate on those with substance abuse issues. Because this was a clinical setting, unlike Western Pacific, which was exclusively dedicated to rehabilitation, it helped me carefully identify those who may have substance abuse issues, the same type of patients that I will encounter in practice if my license is reinstated. My time at Holy Medical Center, where I volunteered for 2 hours a week until January 2017, was a gratifying and highly valuable experience. In February 2018, I spoke to the sophomore class at Mayfield Senior School. This was a particularly difficult and humbling experience as my youngest daughter was a student there at the time. Many of the faculty and staff were aware of the fact that I lost my license and the circumstances surrounding that loss. At that time, my daughter Sophia was a student there. It was an enriching experience to speak to our youth and educate them on the harms of prescription drug abuse and the opioid epidemic. My acknowledgement of my past mistake came full circle in January 2019 when I was a guest lecturer at Marshall B. Ketchum University. I spoke to pharmacy students regarding the opioid epidemic, my lapse in judgment, mistakes in practice between the years of 2006 and 2008, and what can be done to avoid these mistakes in the future. I tried to instill the seriousness of these issues in the students and tried to ingrain in them the value of human life and the dangers of our profession if we do not hold ourselves to the highest standards of practice. In volunteer work, I have been actively volunteering at Santa Teresita Medical Center and assisting them in any way that I could. At Santa Teresita, I helped the Carmelite Sisters of the Most Sacred Heart of Los Angeles attend to their diverse community of patients, residents, and children. This has been a humbling and gratifying experience. While I wish I could serve them more fully in the role as a pharmacist, I strive to attain relicensure so I can continue my volunteer services to the Carmelite Sisters. I have included with my petition many letters from professional colleagues, professional references, friends and family members who can attest to my sincerest remorse and rehabilitation for past mistakes. The steps I have taken to grow personally and professionally so I can once again be a practicing pharmacist. Pharmacy has been my life for over 30 years. It is my passion, and now I have an opportunity to instill my many years of knowledge in the area on my son who is operating his own pharmacy and my daughter who is a licensed pharmacist. They have lived this experience with me and have learned from it just as I have. I am sorry for those who were affected by my mistakes, and over the past 15 years, I have had an opportunity to reflect and educate myself, so the same mistakes are never made again. I respectfully request that you sitting here today as the California Board of Pharmacy demonstrated my remorse, rehabilitation, and contrition, and accept my petition for reinstatement of my license without any restriction, and know that if reinstated, I will make it my personal and professional goal to effectuate high standards of pharmacy practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daher. Ms. Jarvis, anything on cross-examination?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Daher, in the past, there have been issues with you deflecting responsibility for your actions to the patients, their parents, the board. You say that you're accepting responsibility, but as you heard from my recitation of your petition packet, you still seem to deflect responsibility to the board for revoking your license, even in that writing. Can you address why you think that you're not fully responsible for these actions?
I am sorry and remorseful that I did not recognize at the time that there are red flags and protocols that need to be followed. I do now, after 15 years after the opioid epidemic have exploded, and we are all aware of it. A lot of talk about it on television and radio. I am sorry for what happened, and I'm hoping that I can move forward.
Do you take responsibility for attempting to deflect that responsibility in the past?
Yes, I do.
What actions have you taken in your life to show the board that you do accept this responsibility as being your personal responsibility?
I went through a journey of 15 years of rehabilitation and remorse and self-education. as I read and through my paperwork, I've done a lot of community service, a lot of continuing education, and I'm sorry for the past and for my mistake, and I'm very sad about and remorseful for what happened. And again, I am ready to move forward.
If the board were to grant your license, are you aware that you'd be required to serve a probation term?
Yes, I am.
And are you able to comply with the terms of probation?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with the terms of probation?
I've read it in the past, yes.
And when you say you've read it, you mean the disciplinary guidelines?
Yes.
Would you be able to pass the pharmacist licensure exam again?
I do hope so.
Since it's been 15 years since you last practiced, I do believe that would be a requirement. Are you willing to sit for the pharmacist licensure exam again?
I will be able to sit for the pharmacist exam.
Have you been maintaining your, I guess I would say, clinical information and training and experience during the 15 years that you have not been able to practice as a pharmacist?
Yes, I have.
How so?
I've been reviewing the pharmacy prep book.
Do you continue to work in your son's pharmacy here today?
I do work as a clerk.
As an unlicensed clerk?
Unlicensed clerk, yes.
So can you explain a little bit about your duties?
I answer phone calls. I type labels. I prepare deliveries to go out. I help at the cash register, and that's it.
And do the other pharmacists, technicians, I mean, obviously your son, does everybody who works there know that you are on probation or that you lost your license?
Yes, they do.
Do they know why?
Yes, they do.
Do you know if any of them have actually read the decision by the board?
Yes, they did.
How do you know that?
I told them about it and I gave them the link to it.
Did any of them come back, either pharmacists or technicians, to discuss the issues that came about in that decision with you?
No, they did not.
So you don't actually know if they read it. You know that you gave them the opportunity to read it.
They asked me about it, at what happened, and they said they were going to read it.
Okay. If you were granted reinstatement and then, obviously passed the exam and were placed on probation, what would be your intention in the world of pharmacy?
I would like to work as a relief pharmacist.
For any particular pharmacy?
For my son and other friends.
When you say relief pharmacist, so is your intention like you would be a part-time, as needed, floating? What's your intention?
It'll be part-time, as needed, and floating between whoever needs me on a daily basis.
Have you made connections, or do you currently still have connections in the pharmacy world such that you think that type of employment would be available to you?
Yes, I did.
How many pharmacies do you think you would be able to work as relief or part-time?
3?
And one of those would be your son's?
No. One of them would be my son if he needs me on a Saturday or something.
So would it be 4 including your son's?
It'll be 3 including my son.
Okay. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, Ms. Jarvis. President O, handing it over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Maria, any questions or comments?
Yes, a couple of questions. Mr. Daher, I know you have tried diligently to retain your license again. And so what has changed since your last appearance to the board here? What do you think would make a difference to us in the last 2 to 3 years since you were last here?
The continuing education courses that I took as a opioid pharmacist specialist and substance abuse specialist that gave me a more insight into what I need to do to get back.
So do you think that would make a significant difference to the board compared to your package from the previous attempt?
I am, continuously educating myself and learning, and I am hoping that today the board will see what I've been going through for the last 15 years, and in terms of how regrettable the situation was and how I'm able to move forward. And I'm putting all my effort every single year since my license was revoked to educate myself, rehabilitate myself, and be remorseful about what happened.
So you've had a significant amount of time to, like you said, re-educate yourself. So looking back, when you were in your own pharmacy, what specifically would you do differently?
I know a lot more now about red flags and pharmacist responsibility at this time. How to make sure we check cures, we check doctors, we make sure that the patients are using the medication for a legitimate purpose.
So that's kind of general. So I'm looking for, like, what would you do specifically besides the cures? What would you mean by check doctors? What's that mean?
I mean, make sure the doctors are legitimate doctors. Well, what I made the mistakes is I trusted a doctor in the back that he was, when I checked the medical board, it said that he's a pain management specialist. If the medical board says it was a medical pain medicine specialist, I trusted that he was a professional in what he was doing. But now it's totally different. I have to make sure that the medication are being dispensed in a legitimate way, and make sure not to trust just everybody like that. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Jake?
I have no comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Renee?
Yes, this is Renee. So I did have a question. Just maybe if you could elaborate just to clarify on your application in your response question to question 17. I'll just read the part that maybe you could elaborate on is you said, I recognize that what has happened in the past cannot be changed. However, with the exercise of precautionary vigilance and acknowledgement of flawed protocols, patients and their families will be better protected. So what I'm just not understanding what that sentence. So you said, so the two things, what you would do, exercise of precautionary vigilance, and then you have in here an acknowledgement of flawed protocols. Can you explain how that is going to better protect? I'm just not understanding what you're referring, what the reference is there that will protect patients and their families.
Again, I'm talking about patients who abuse drugs, not patients that needs the opioids for survival and for their medical conditions. I'm talking about protocols that I have to make sure that the protocols are not flawed, whatever they are in the pharmacy on a personal level, or I'm not saying that they are flawed protocols from anybody else. It's our protocols that we have to put down and learn about it, make sure that we are protecting the public from opioid medication, especially the ones that are abusing them and not using them for a medical condition.
So would that be the pharmacies, say, like standard operating procedures, or are you talking more on an ethical?
No, I'm talking about the standard procedures in the pharmacy itself. Because if I work as a relief pharmacist anywhere, I want to make sure that there are good protocols to follow.
I see. So if you went to a pharmacy, would that be part of your, if it, would you be looking at what their standard protocols are, standard operating procedures to evaluate whether you would put yourself in a situation where they have flawed protocols?
Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I have no more questions.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes, a couple questions. First, could you directly respond to the item the Deputy Attorney General brought up when you put the main responsibility on the overdose victims' family rather than on the prescribers for noticing addiction? I'd like you to address that directly.
That was 15 years ago. I've been on a journey for the last 15 years where went through remorse and rehabilitation and re-education, and that was a 15-year ago statement that I said. It's not a current statement, and I regret I said that, and I am sorry I said that.
Okay, thank you. Second, can you give me your definition of corresponding responsibility?
The corresponding responsibility is to make sure that the medication is used for a legitimate reason. If the medication is not used for a legitimate reason, we have to make sure that we question it and follow, whether we call it the doctors, the patients, follow up with questions to make sure that we are protecting the public and protecting the patient, and not that just take it as a prescription coming in from a doctor, go ahead and fill it.
Mm-hmm. And what would you consider some of the most significant red flags for someone who maybe be abusing the system to serve active addiction or to obtain opioids or other medications for non-medical purposes? What do you think? What would to you be some of the most significant red flags for that?
I think the most important one is the age of the patient to begin with, and then the doctor prescribing. Because if the doctor have a habit of prescribing just pain medication, that would be a big red flag. Another one is patient traveling distances to see a doctor from his address. He lives far, he's coming to a doctor 20, 30, 40 miles away, and then driving to another pharmacy, whether it's local or far. That's another red flag. And it's important to check on the patient's cures and make sure that he is not doctor shopping and going to different doctors, especially if they're paying cash for their prescriptions. Because nowadays, nobody should pay cash for prescription. Everything should be going through the insurance, since we have the Obamacare came through, and everybody should have insurance.
Thank you. And now we've mentioned the opioid epidemic in this hearing. Given what we know now, and given what you were held accountable for 15 years ago, do you believe your actions played a role in the opioid epidemic?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Trevor. Jose?
No questions at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jose. KK?
Hi, Dr. Dar. I got a couple of questions. You mentioned you went through a long 15-year journey. So tell me, and I think Trevor asked that question briefly also, that how is your understanding of corresponding responsibility of a pharmacist has changed in that journey? That's one. And number two, what was the driving force when you took the decisions to fill the prescriptions that you filled, that maybe retrospectively you will see as a questionable decision? So.
Okay, I'm sorry, the first question was about corresponding responsibilities.
How it has changed for you in the 15-year journey, before and after, or during?
I'm sorry, in 2006 through 2008, regrettably, most of the continuing education that I took at the time said that prescriptions should be filled. You question them lightly, and then you go from there. The Board of Pharmacy issued in their magazine in 2009, I believe, started issuing red flags on these things. That was way after the 2006 and 2007. So as I'm going through this journey of 15 years of re-educating myself, I continue working till 2014, till my license was revoked in 2014, January 27. So, as we learned from that time in 2009, I was implementing all the guidelines and protocols, and we never did anything after the initial late 2006 and to early 2008. The whole thing was about 18 months. So after that happened and started re-educating myself and learning a lot more, we had that journey of education, and it continued up till today, as we know a lot more about the opioid epidemic as it exploded in 2008. And I'm sorry, what's the other question?
What was the driving force in filling those prescriptions back then, which probably currently you think wasn't a good decision to fill those prescriptions? So what was the thinking, or what was the thing that drove you to fill those prescriptions in those days?
At the time, we were hoping to be able to help patients in pain. A lot of the patients were in pain, and they were coming out with the system where you have to schedule the pain level from 1 to 10 and things like that as I read literature. So a lot of that came in from the idea of me helping patients, and it wasn't from any way to be profitable. It wasn't that we were a very busy pharmacy, and filling the opioid prescription was a very small amount of the prescription business.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Dr. Dar.
Thank you. Ricardo?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for speaking with us today, Dr. Daher. My question was, so if you're planning to be a relief pharmacist and you're going to be working with people who you are friendly with your son, do you have any concerns that they won't hold you to a high enough standard because of your existing relationships with them? And how are you going to ensure that you are meeting these standards? Maybe if these people are friendly with you and they're not holding you in the same way that they might someone that they didn't know and hadn't know had been through this process.
I am a very ethical person. I will not do anything to harm anybody's business or anybody's profession. I will follow the law, and I will be respecting everybody's decision.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jason?
No questions, President O. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And I don't have any questions. Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, President O. Ms. Jarvis, anything further?
Yes, Your Honor, I do have a follow-up question.
You bet.
Thank you. Mr. Dar, you said when you were being asked about your understanding of the definition of corresponding responsibility, that you would have to ask follow-up questions to a patient or prescriber if you suspected that the prescription was not for a legitimate medical purpose. What types of questions would you ask?
I would like to see from the doctor first patient records and just to follow up on the condition, what the patient is suffering from. If there are follow-up MRIs, follow-up, different doctor has seen the patient, things like that. The age of the patient and what's the reason for the medication being used. Is it a sports injury? Is it a one-time use? Is it a continuous time, over time use, which is very questionable. So just like let's say a person came in from an orthopedic and broke his leg, okay, that's a legitimate purpose. But if it's just somebody walking in without any reason to be in pain, I mean, just walking in and presenting a prescription, we have to follow up and check the cures, check the doctor, check, different follow protocols to follow.
And so as a pharmacist, do you believe that you could at some point refuse to fill a suspicious prescription?
Yes, I will.
What is that point? I mean, you're talking about reviewing MRIs and talking to the patient and talking to the prescribers. Where do you personally, or would you, if you had your license, sort of pull the plug and say, I'm done asking questions, I'm not filling this prescription?
Again, as I said, if a patient walking in at 22-year-old and there is no response from the doctor didn't respond back, the patient didn't have any answers for what he's using the medication, there are different protocols to follow, and I will refuse to fill the prescription.
Now, it's my understanding from reviewing your past decisions that when this all occurred in 2006 to 2008, you did not believe that as a pharmacist, you could refuse to fill a suspicious prescription. Is that correct?
This was 15 years ago, and the case was adjudicated already, and I'm not here to go back to that adjudication. I'm here to, show my remorse and rehabilitation, and hopefully get my license reinstated at this time. But that was 15 years ago, what I said, and I don't recall it much anymore at the time of what I said.
So you don't recall if 15 years ago you believed that as a pharmacist, you could not refuse to fill a prescription?
I never said that. I think the attorney that was representing me, and you don't see him here today, he said that. And I kind of corrected him, and I said, we review drug profiles, patients' profiles, and we do different investigation when we need to fill a prescription.
Okay, so 15 years ago, you did believe that you could refuse to fill a prescription, and you continue in that same belief today.
Okay, that was not said 15 years ago. I don't believe it was said 15 years ago anywhere. It was said in the last hearing. The attorney that representing me said that I was part of a old pharmacist that we fill a prescription without questioning it, and I corrected him at the time. That was in 2019.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get at, and maybe I'm doing this inartfully, but so you're saying that 15 years ago, when you were filling these prescriptions, you did believe that you had the ability as a pharmacist to ask questions, to exercise corresponding responsibility, and to refuse to fill a prescription. And you continue in those same beliefs as you sit here today. If you were to get your pharmacist license back, you could ask questions, exercise corresponding responsibility, and refuse to fill a prescription.
15 years ago, we went to court and we presented everything. And we did refuse to fill prescriptions for many patients. And we did give the judge at the time the names of patients and proof that we refused to fill prescriptions. And we did follow protocols, our protocols at the time. They weren't enough. We weren't following red flags as we should have. And I'm sorry for that. And I'm sorry for the loss of life that happened because of that. I'm sincerely very, very saddened about it. But again, in 2006 through 2008, we did follow drug reviews, on patient reviews, and the patients that we suspected, we did not fill prescriptions for them at the time. And again, I say the attorney that said it was in 2019. He said that, I'm from an old school, like his dad. I fill a prescription that I get it in, whatever comes in, we would fill. And that is not true. I corrected him at the time after he started talking.
I think that answers my question. Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor, and no closing.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. All right, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted, and we are off the record. And I will turn it back to President O.
Thank you, Your Honor. Perfect timing. I appreciate that. And we are so ready for lunch break. We'll return.
Okay, hello?
Hi.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I have my friend, Honorable James Copeland would like to say just a few words if possible.
Sure, Your Honor. I'm gonna get it back to you then, because I don't know the procedure for that.
Okay.
So.
Okay, my apologies if I didn't catch that you had witnesses to testify on your own behalf. So we're going to reopen the record. And Mr. Daher, why don't you go ahead and bring your witness in front of the camera?
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Please excuse my less than formal attire today. I didn't expect to address you, but thank you for allowing me to make a few comments.
All right, let me go ahead and put you under oath, sir, and then you can go ahead and make your comments. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
And can you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is James Bradford Copeland, James Bradford, Copeland, Copelan, and I'm a retired judicial officer.
All right, thank you, Judge Copeland. Please proceed.
Tough case. Difficult questions from Ms. Jarvis. Good questions from Ms. Jarvis. Good questions from the board. A little bit of background. I served the Los Angeles Superior Court for 30 years in one capacity or the other. I am a professional judge of character. I heard 150,000 driving under the influence cases. I heard 50,000 family law cases. I heard 50,000 civil cases, and I heard so many traffic cases that I probably don't want to drive anymore because I know how people drive. In that time, I developed a fine sense of, are people telling the truth? Are they being forthright? I've known Albert for a long time. I've seen him cry. He's talked about this case. He's talked about mistakes. He's talked about his journey to become a more professional pharmacist. And he takes his responsibility seriously. Do I believe Albert? Yes, I do. And I want to share my professional judgment, my personal judgment with you in the hopes that it will provide a basis as you look at the evidence. Character counts. This man is telling the truth. As a professional judge of character, I give my entire wholehearted endorsement of Albert as a person, Albert as a pharmacist, and one who is taking a very difficult journey for 15 years. His sentence by this board, actually it was the prior boards, I believe was extreme. I encourage you to look at the facts, look at his journey, look at his testimony today as a person who has come a very, very long way and is willing to abide by the board's decision, the restrictions on getting his license back, taking the exam, and once again providing for his family. I appreciate you allowing me to address you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Judge Copeland. Any questions by Ms. Jarvis?
No questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And President O, any questions?
Ask members if any questions. Please raise your hand. Don't see any members raising their hand or unmuting, so no questions.
All right, that concludes your testimony then, Judge. Thank you so much and have a good rest of the day. You are released from the stand.
And my pleasure, and thank you so very much.
All right, we'll wait for Mr. Daher to return. Mr. Daher, any other witnesses?
No, thank you very much. I just hope that my license will be reinstated, and I showed my remorse and contrition and sadness about what happened. And I hope my license will be reinstated. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Daher. Before I close the record, President O, anything else?
I think we're good to go.
Okay, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted and we are off the record. President O.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, everyone. All right, 12:09. We'll come back at 1 o'clock after a lunch break. We have 2 more petitions. And we'll see you all at 1 p.m.